Good evening, it's Adrian Auctioneer, coming to you with the market wrap for today's results. An outstanding achievement with 100% clearance rate with 7 auctions sold out of 7. Certainly seems to be some sort of dichotomy or some type of chasm between results that are reported. There are some auctioneers that are explaining and expressing their concern about sub 50% clearance rates, and I do feel that a lot of it has to do with the process itself, which I'm more than happy to run through. But first, let's look at how the day actually played out. We had 18 Tangerine Drive in Quakers Hill, and that sold for an outstanding price of $1,515,000. That was with 6 registered bidders, and that was over the reserve price. Freestanding home, beautifully appointed. Then we had 62 Greendale Terrace in Quakers Hill. We also had 6 registered parties on that one, and that sold for $1,305, and again over the reserve price. A nice freestanding home available there. Number 4, Coco's Place in Narimba Fields, and that was 4 registered parties. We sold that for $1,187,500. and that was on the reserve price. So very happy owners, very happy sellers of that particular property. Then we had 30 Raycroft Avenue in Quakers Hill, which created a new record for a duplex in Quakers Hill. So a suburb record there of 1.2, and that was selling obviously over the reserve price with about 15 registered parties. So the market is certainly in a very good position at this point. Then we went on to 47 Argowan Road in Schofields. That was a near new home, beautiful construction there, 4 registered parties, sold for $1,280, which was exactly on the reserve price. So some very happy clients on that one. And then the last 2 was 17 Newland Grove in Acacia Gardens. That certainly was a lovely freestanding home with 4 registered parties, and that sold for $1,410,000, being well above the reserve price. The final auction was 7 Snowgum Street in Acacia Gardens as well. That was a nice entry-level point home, single level, could do with some work. The buyer is actually going to renovate it and either have it as an investment or potentially on sell it, and that sold for $1,265,000, and that was well over the reserve price. So I think you've got a choice in this market. The market can either control you or you control the market. And the way you control the market is by having a process. Now, obviously, all those auctions I conducted today were on behalf of Josh Tessalon and his team and his 2 outstanding associates, Ben and Marin. Now, this team is the #1 team in Ray White globally, and they do an amazing amount of volume and offer incredible service to their clients, and are always striving to achieve a premium price while assisting buyers buy their dream home. Now, I believe the process that works, given that I'm the chief auctioneer and exclusive auctioneer for this particular agent, is firstly starting at the listing appointment itself, where you're providing genuine, authentic feedback and an opinion around the value of the property, and then conducting multiple open for inspections per week, not just 1 or 2 open houses, but potentially 4 to 6 open houses per week. Now, what that's doing is displaying an incredibly high degree of effort and making sure that there's absolutely no stone unturned, and every potential buyer in that market over that 4-week campaign make sure that they come through the property. Then obviously the vendor management side of things comes into it, and that's when Josh and his team are over communicating with their vendors. And what that looks like is daily contact on multiple occasions, daily written reports and SMSs, a combined WhatsApp group, and absolutely face-to-face meetings on a weekly basis. This is critical to ensure that you're over-servicing the vendor to ensure that you're keeping the vendor calm, remaining confident in what can seem like a very confusing market. On the news, one day they're saying interest rates are going up, another day interest rates are going down. Then you've got auctioneers reporting that they're only selling, 20% clearance rate. And it could have something to do with their process. It could have something to do with a lack of consistency around geography. And it could have something to do with the team effort as well. But the vendor management side of things is absolutely critical to ensure that you're constantly providing feedback to the vendor, constantly providing the commentary from the buyers, and ensuring it's done in a very transparent and authentic manner, and that you're delivering news indiscriminately. What I mean by that is, if you're dealing with a doctor, lawyer, or accountant, then what they do is they provide indiscriminate news. So if it's good news or bad news, either way, the news is delivered. We have a theory that every owner deserves to know the truth about what's happening with their campaign. We are the ones that are dealing with the buyers, and we need to ensure that the owner is on the same page. So there's no untruths. Whatever the buyer is told, the vendor is told, and that way there's a great communication line. Secondly, and what the team are outstanding at, especially Ben and Marin, is dealing with the buyers. And this also comes through with an over-communication process. So what they're doing is literally speaking to the buyers every single day throughout the campaign. They're qualifying them on finance. They're very intimate around knowledge when it comes to price. So I'm very pleased as the auctioneer when I show up to auction and Ben, Josh and Marin are able to tell me, Adrian, this buyer I believe is at this certain level, the other buyer is at this particular level, and the other buyer is at this level. And that is only due to building trust and rapport, acting almost like their buyer's agent, over communicating, and also having face-to-face meetings with buyers leading up to the auction itself. Then the final part of the process is myself as the auctioneer, who gets very involved and very entrenched with the process. So what that looks like is I'm speaking to the vendor the week leading into the auction a minimum of 2 or 3 times. So I'm introducing myself, making sure that if they have any questions, making sure they're familiar with terminology such as on the market, passed in, hitting the reserve price, etc. And also I'm coming from a point of seniority to ensure that they're in very good hands for someone who's conducting or been conducting auctions for 35 years, and also endorsing the work of Josh and his team. And obviously I do get a full debrief from Josh directly prior to making those phone calls. Now the best part is when I turn up to the auction and shake the hands of the vendor. It was lovely to talk to you during the week. It's great to put a face to the name, and you're in very good hands today. These are the amount of registered parties that we've got, and what happens is myself and Josh exclusively have another meeting, and this is in addition to the reserve meeting that Josh has already had with them during the week. So we have another quite intense forensic meeting, and this is where we advise the owner exactly how many registered parties there are, and also what our exact strategy is to achieve a premium price for the owners. Now today, all our sales were either at or well above the reserve price. So I think dealing with the vendors directly as an auctioneer is a huge advantage. And also being the fact that I've been over the years a high performance agent selling over 100 properties per year for 30 years straight, I've also got the ability to pause the auction momentarily and actually talk to buyers as well. And that happened quite a lot today, where we had to negotiate with the highest bidder, and Josh was with the vendor, for example, and I'd be talking to the buyer. And then if there was negotiations that were required, it's no problem for me to pause the auction momentarily and approach buyers. And the buyers do really appreciate that, especially if you know their name and you're talking to them and you are genuinely trying to assist them in buying the property. So once that process takes place, it's almost impervious and almost a fortified process, in the sense that the best price will be achieved. And the auction process is the most efficient and effective way to sell real estate. However, you must have a process in place. And I've just outlined what Josh and his team and myself as their chief auctioneer do on a weekly basis. And we're conducting anywhere between 7 to 12 auctions per week. Josh is selling, personally, just with 2 associates, anywhere between 20 to 30 properties per month. And that allows him to be that number one agent in the Ray White network, which is an outstanding network, and with over 1,000 offices in 11 countries and with over 14,000 agents. So outstanding job today. My recommendation is that you need to create your own market. Don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to the news. Just have a laser beam focus on communicating with your vendors, communicating with your buyers, and selecting the buyers that are ready to buy, and also choosing owners that are motivated to sell, and remind them of what their motivation is, and also ensure that you're always protecting their price and ensuring that we're always achieving a premium price on behalf of those clients. So I hope you appreciated and enjoyed the market wrap this week. Hopefully I'll come back to you next week with equally as good news. And certainly it was a delight today to be able to service so many clients, and obviously to have 7 out of 7 and 100% clearance rate was an outstanding achievement for Josh, his team, and I was very proud to be involved in that process, and almost an extension of their team by entrenching myself in the deal with the buyers, with the sellers, and making sure that I'm a huge part of the transaction. See you next week, folks.